Power on.
The following is a presentation of the Sovryn Tech podcast feed.
It's TIE Fighter Renegades, a Star Wars podcast.
Ooh, the man of tomorrow is here, Dr. Brian Sovryn, with another episode of TIE Fighter Renegades in the Sovryn Technica podcast feed. And baby, you know when it's time for TIE Fighter Renegades, I don't have to be alone. I am being joined by none other than my brother in crime, that being Robin Freebeard. And Rob, man, welcome back to the TFR, baby.
Yippee-ki-yay.
Yeah. Oh man, I think we're going to be saying motherfucker a lot. I was before we hit the record button.
Yeah,
because Rob
really was.
Yeah. Rob was a man. He was a bearer of bad tidings, in my opinion. But we'll probably save that for the end. We'll talk about that later on. Let's just say it starts with S, ends with K in 2 words. But anyway, we'll get into it. Well, we are going to get into opening this thing up. We just had the end, as of this recording yesterday, of what many would argue to be the premier Star Wars series going today. And that being The Mandalorian. We had the season finale. We're pretty sure that's not a series finale, but we had the season finale of season 3 of The Mandalorian, The Adventures of Din Djarin, along with a whole shit ton more of Mandalorians these days. And we will certainly be getting into all of that. We're going to break down, maybe not episode by episode, but give it an overall feel. Certainly plenty of little things to talk about, lots of details. And, well, for me, I'll put it this way. You know, and this is why I have a strong disposition against many shows. Like, I mean, it's part of the strong disposition, not the only thing. But shows like the new Battlestar Galactica, shows like Game of Thrones, where or even think of shows like Lost or something, where, you know, if you can't stick the landing, you crash the plane and people died. Okay. Doesn't matter how great everything was in the beginning or whatever. Takeoff was nice. Great. Doesn't matter if you don't get to your destination because you crashed. So for me, sticking the landing is a really big deal. And am I foreshadowing what our thoughts on Mandalorian season 3? Well, you're going to have to listen to find out. Rob, you know, I guess I want to open this up speaking about how people feel about this season. I think most of the time that you, myself, and Ellen were watching this, you know, we pay attention to a lot of the other Star Wars talking heads, YouTubers and whatever else, right? And they had some very negative feelings through most of this season, which I think it's fair to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, we did not share those negative, those misgivings. No. You know, I thought the season was incredibly strong, you know, through most of it. And how about you, Rob?
Yeah, in fact, you know, we talked about this the last time, you know, we watched an episode together.
Yeah,
which we generally do, you know.
Yes.
Brian and Ellen come over to my place and we watch it on my big screen OLED TV, and we generally have a really good time.
Tonight at the museum.
Yeah, and the last time we got together, we said, you know, like we've been hearing all this kind of like negative chatter online about, you know, how, you know, the quality of the Mandalorian has dropped, and both Brian are going like, what are these people talking about? I do not understand.
Yeah. You know, the critiques seem to be that the season was uneven, you know, very uneven. And I think if I were to try and empathize, try and understand with where they were coming from, I think there's 2 main points. I'm going to let you deliver one, but I'll deliver the first.
Yeah, I think I know what both of them are.
Yeah, well, the first one was, I don't think people understood at all. I want to say it was episode 2 or 3 when they spent a ton of time on Coruscant. People felt like completely ripped out of the story. And I had heard people saying it's akin to when, you know, midway in the Book of Boba Fett season 1, or maybe that's the whole show. that, you end up, it turns into the Mandalorian season 2.5 instead of the Book of Boba Fett. And I think a lot of people felt that they got completely ripped out when they spent that whole time on Coruscant. Me, I'm watching this and I'm like, holy shit, look at all the time we're spending on Coruscant.
Right.
Which was a rare bird when you and I were younger men. Like we didn't get this, until 1999.
Right. With the special editions at the end of Return of the Jedi. I mean,
right.
That was
even in 97. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the most of Coruscant we've had ever seen.
Right. Oh yeah. And when Palpatine's statue is coming down in the, new ending of it, which by the way, Rob and I are catching, and Ellen, we are catching the 40th anniversary release in theaters of Return of the Jedi, by the way. I'm curious if they're it's probably going to be the special edition. Do you have thoughts on that, Rob?
Yeah, I imagine so. Disney has pretty much carried George Lucas' torch in this one regard.
Right.
In terms
the only
of,
regard.
and in terms of the special editions being the definitive ones.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting too, but certainly we'll be doing a TFR, probably talking more about that. But anyway, I could kind of get where people feel that way, that they don't understand just how special it is to be on Coruscant. I mean, and I thought it was, personally, I thought it was very special. Like even seeing the junkyard, seeing the giant Star Destroyer there felt like something right out of, what was the guy's name who was supposed to do the episode 9? Trevorrow.
Trevorrow. Yeah.
Like it felt like scenes from that, but not only that, even just hearing the Boonta Eve classic music playing in the background while they're walking around, and you see that rock, which is like the only natural bit of land left that you can see on Coruscant,
which they had only talked about in novels prior to this.
Right. This was awesome to see all this shit. It really, really was. So I don't exactly understand why people, I mean, I can try and empathize with why they had a problem with this, but I didn't think it was really an issue at all. I think the more we can see of Coruscant, the fucking better. And we got a lot of it, probably the most we've seen outside of the Clone Wars. But now the second thing I think that a lot of people might have felt was uneven, or that they had distaste for anyway, might have to do with certain figures in all red. Do you want to talk about that, Rob?
Yeah, well, I'm actually going to bring the count up to 3 on this now.
Yeah, please do it.
Because I think there are 2 other issues, and I'll get to the people in red. But first, I want to say I think a lot of other people who don't have the backstory of Filoni's other works don't really understand the importance of Bo-Katan and why the show spent so much time focusing on her rather than Din Djarin, because it did very much kind of seem like the Bo-Katan show for a while.
Right.
So I think that was a problem for a lot of people that just didn't have the context.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think, because if you didn't watch the Clone Wars, you have no understanding of why she's such royalty, quote unquote. You don't have her backstory, and why she's such an important character, and she really is. And
if you didn't watch Rebels, you didn't have an understanding of what her struggles and her trauma was.
Right. Yeah. We're going to put a pin on the subject of Bo-Katan because I think there's a lot. I actually have. This is an area where I feel personally a little uneven, but not for the reason that all these people did. I mean, I've got all the, you and I, Rob, we have all the context in the fucking world. like you don't understand. We're children of 2 universes, not 1. So we know how this works. But anyway, so I agree. I think a lot of people didn't understand, like, wait, who the hell is this Bo-Katan? In fact, the comment that I made to you recently was, I don't know why people have a problem with Bo-Katan. She's more Star Wars than Din Djarin is. Like she really is. She's not just Mandalorian royalty. She's Star Wars royalty. Yeah, right? She's been around since George Lucas ran the damn ship. Right. So
he created the character.
Right. And I mean, and to say nothing of, and I wish they would have at least given a passing mention of her sister, Duchess Satine, incredibly powerful character. But might be reasons behind that's neither here nor there. Do you have anything further you want to say on that, Rob? Otherwise, feel free to get into the guys in red.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reluctant to bring this up, but there may be an issue there too with there's kind of a backlash towards female characters in Star Wars right now because of the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
I think a lot of people feel that, like you have these Lucasfilm, employees and executives, wearing t-shirts that say the Force is female, which I don't have a problem with it because the Force is both male and female.
Right. There is a cosmic and living force. And
right. Yeah, exactly. And so, it's anyway, I could speak on this issue for hours and I'm not going to, but just to say the least that just to further empathize with some people that I vehemently disagree with, I think that might have been an issue. Yeah.
Again, we'll put a pin on it because this is the one time where there might be a small grain of truth behind it, but overall, get over it, guys. Like again, you and I, Rob, we grew up, we only had one female character pretty much, minus a gal like working on Echo Base for over a decade, until Mara Jade became a thing.
Exactly. I was just going to say that. Yeah.
We commented about this on TIE Fighter Renegades years ago, saying, thank you, Disney, for almost overnight, like exponentially increasing the amount of female characters in Star Wars, because we had very few,
Even though the few that we had were very strong.
They're fantastic. Winter, go down the list.
I was just going to say Winter too. Yeah. You're hitting all the greats.
Yeah, exactly. So I agree, but we'll put a pin on that because that is something I want to comment on. But anyway,
the guys in red. I think by the time we get around to what is it, like episode? Did they show up in 6 or 7?
Yeah, it was 6. It was either 5 or 6.
Yeah, I think they showed up at the very end, or at least they were mentioned at the very end of episode 6. And so you have the Praetorian Guards, which are, of course, famous from The Last Jedi.
Right.
Those were the guards who were protecting, Supreme Leader Snoke in his throne on the supremacy.
Of note, they are separate than the Sovereign Protectors, who are in episode 9. The ones guarding, those were specifically talking about a class of trooper, quote unquote, that were guarding Snoke in The Last Jedi.
And they're not Crimson Guardsmen either, but they're kind of the inheritors of that kind of legacy.
Yes. Yeah. So obviously, the issue being that, oh man, why are they bringing in anything from The Last Jedi? Please just let us forget this movie.
Yeah, it's an unpleasant reminder of what some people are still upset about.
Yeah. And there's certainly, I think there's lots of, and we've talked about this. We talked about this during season 2, that it seemed pretty clear Filoni and Favreau were on the mission, probably more Filoni, on the mission to repair the damage of the sequel trilogy, but being inclusive of it and giving context. And, correct me if I'm wrong, Rob. I think we both felt, no, this is a good thing. Just fill in the backstory of these movies so that what happens in them, no matter how poorly executed or quickly executed as it is, we have context. We have meaning behind it all. We even got to experience, go ahead.
One could also argue like this is not Filoni's first rodeo in this regards either.
Sure.
Because a lot of people, felt upset about the prequels and the lack of depth to them, which the Clone Wars provided in abundance.
Yes.
And, for some people, the Clone Wars people who bothered to watch it, that show even kind of like redeemed the prequels in a lot of ways and made them more enjoyable to watch.
Yeah. I think he's doing the same thing, or at least that was a plan to do the same thing with his Filoniverse, which we'll talk about that a little bit more later too. And I'm fine with that. And I do want to put out also, and Mandalorian season 3 might have even done this even more than anything else. The amount of respect that this paid to the prequel trilogy was fantastic.
Battle droids.
Yeah, right. And we got to see so many things, even from the Clone Wars, or that we haven't seen since the prequel trilogy, brought to life in live action. And that, just, dare I say, precious. I was so happy about that. Because I'm notorious for being a long time, prequel trilogy fan, even before they got redeemed. And so, yeah, I loved it. I really, really enjoyed that. Speaking of a little bit of redemption, let's get in. We'll talk a little bit more about the guys in red, but I want to talk about a guy who came up in brown cloaks, kind of out of nowhere. And that being none other than Jar Jar himself, just popping in, not Jar Jar, but Ahmed Best, the actor who plays Jar Jar.
Yeah.
Getting a nice cameo as the Jedi that he plays on Jedi Temple Challenge, but now becoming an official character in the official canon. And just, this was part of that respect of the prequel trilogy that I really loved. Yes, bring Ahmed Best in, let him kick ass.
It was a dual respect, not only to, the legacy of the prequels, but also to Ahmed himself, who kind of, certainly had struggled with his relationship with how the prequels were received. And the kind of backlash that he personally received from many fans.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. He got to come in and I mean, it's not like a super long scene, but he kicks fucking ass, ends up saving, spoiler alerts, folks, but the season's over, ends up saving Grogu, more or less. I thought that was awesome. Go ahead.
Take note, people. 2 lightsabers. This is how you survive Order 66.
Yeah.
Unless you're Yoda.
Right. But well said. I'm sure Ahsoka has things to say about that.
I'm sure she does too.
Yeah, which, by the way, I think another quick side subject we'll get into later on is we'll talk about that Ahsoka trailer, because holy fuck. So, there's your first motherfucker, folks. This motherfucker. That was something. We'll get into that though. Anyway, so with the guys in red, again, I get it why people want to forget that this shit ever that the Last Jedi ever happened. Hey, me too. I deal with it. I get it that the prequel or the sequel trilogy is a thing. I've been on the record many times saying, you know what, if you actually read the books of the sequel trilogy, it's not bad. In fact, I dare say it's almost good, other than one little chapter in Rise of Skywalker that I still can't get an answer on, having to do with the Sith. But besides that, it's fine. It works. I really didn't have a problem with them being introduced in this, just like I thought it was great that Daddy Hux, was in it. I thought that was a direct reference to cloning is your obsession, Hux,
right.
Meaning go ahead.
Which we know was a load of crap.
Right.
But it does, here again, this kind of shoot, I forgot his name.
Which one?
The guy who had control of Mandalore.
Moff Gideon?
Yeah, Moff Gideon. Obviously what Moff Gideon was doing lays the groundwork for, both, Snoke and Palpatine in the sequel trilogy.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think they're laying great groundwork. I mean, and yeah, that one scene where with that Imperial Council, was that episode 7? That was dynamite.
Yeah.
I really love that. And we said it before they even said it. It's like, oh, that's got to be Captain Paleon.
Yeah. Right.
And then they came right out and said, oh yeah, Thrawn's on his way. We're waiting for Thrawn.
I think my exact words to you, is that who I think it is? And you're like, Paleon? Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So anyway, again, the guy, the guys in the red suit, the Praetorian, people can complain, but come on.
The guys, well, not just, I mean, I don't mean to say, I don't want to say deal with it in a dismissive manner. I want to say deal with it I get it. For some people, the sequel trilogy was kind of traumatic. Well, what do you do with trauma? You don't bury it.
Yeah, right.
You don't push it down and forget about it. You got to process it. So, folks, this is the Mandalorian and the Filoniverse is Star Wars therapy. Go to Star Wars therapy.
Yeah.
Process your pain.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was, I mean, and I'm sure there's other things that maybe made it all feel uneven for some people. But overall, episodes 1 through 7 of season 3, and I was careful in that language, but episodes 1 through 7 of season 3, I thought were dynamite. I mean,
Yeah.
I was having a great time.
Yeah, like I said, we always have a good time when you come over to my place and we watch it together. I'm almost kind of glad that you didn't come over for the last episode.
Yeah, because I think our jaws would have just been like hanging.
Yeah,
you know, there'd be some like WTFs, silent WTFs coming out.
Right.
But before we get into that, I mean, why don't we talk a little bit more about the good? Like let's discuss that a little bit. To date, I still don't know what the fuck happened to Ludwig Göransson, who had been scoring the show previously, as far as the music goes. But I thought the music was fantastic this whole season. Now Joseph Shirley is running things or in using the themes of Ludwig Göransson. I really wish I knew what the hell happened to this guy, but Joseph Shirley has been taking over everywhere that Göransson was previously scoring music for. But I thought the music was pretty inspired. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I'm sure he's doing something. I mean, you know, when you work on a project as big as something like this, you get noticed, and he definitely got noticed early on for his work. Yeah. So I'm sure somebody came to him with a better offer, and he's probably, you know, otherwise engaged.
Yeah, or maybe, you know what, he made all his money and he's like, you know, deuces, and he's out. And you know, if he did, hey, I would do the same thing.
Right? Yeah, right. Yeah.
So that's all right. But I really, really like that. And it's amazing how many different musical styles are really working in Star Wars right now, because Andor had a completely different musical style than anything in The Mandalorian, but then I never felt like I was taken out of Star Wars in this sense. So, you know, that worked for me. Just want to bring that up.
Yeah, I mean, and I think we talked about this in our Andor review, but kind of like how not just the musical tones and things like that, but like just the tone of Andor has kind of opened the scope and range that Star Wars is capable of.
Right.
And I think that's what makes it probably actually right now my favorite, you know, Star Wars TV show.
With Andor?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll get into it. I think Andor is now the like premier Star Wars show, but we'll cover that shortly. Yeah, I agree. How about effects? I mean, did any issues? I know people have complained over the years that the Mandalorian sets, everything like it all feels kind of small. I've never really felt that. It certainly does. Like when I look at Mandalorian season 1 and 2 in comparison to Andor season 1. Yes, The Mandalorian does seem smaller. I didn't think season 3 of The Mandalorian felt small at all. How about you, Rob?
No, but I do still think there's a degree of uncanny valley-ism, if that's even a term, in terms of them using the, you know, the technology of the volume, you know, where they're projecting the background onto these giant screens that basically envelop the entire stage. I mean, it's subtle, but I can see it when it's being used. And, you know, like here again, it's just a little bit of uncanny valley, like a little bit of unreality to it. But here again, I'm in a previous life, you know, I was actually, you know, training and involved in doing visual effects. And so this stuff kind of like stands out to me more than it does most people. So I just might have a better eye for it. But I definitely think that, you know, the technology has not yet been perfected. Don't know if it ever will be, but I think there's room for improvement.
Yeah, well, that's an area where I think they're smart, and I think they've been smart, frankly, since 2013 to reintroduce a lot of practical effects. And one of the best areas I think that they use this is with puppeteering. I'm pretty sure that our little babu freaks or bad baby, no squeezy. They didn't name any of them, even though I'm sure it would have been related to Babu Frick. But those little guys, man, are they dynamite? What a great thing to pull from The Rise of Skywalker. You know, it's funny. Nobody complained about that. They complained about the Praetorian Guard, but no complaints about Babus.
Yeah, the triple Frick threat.
Yeah. Oh, they were awesome.
Yeah.
There was a lot of great comedy in this season. I thought more so than it had existed previously, but it was a funny show at times. I was amazed how well that worked. Now getting into the actors, overall, I thought the acting was fine. I have no, like, did we even once see Pedro Pascal's face this whole season?
No, and I heard some people complaining about that.
No, I'm not complaining. I think it's freaking great.
And I've actually, read some articles and confirmed that he's no longer the guy in the suit.
Right.
This is basically a voiceover job for him at this point.
Right. Which fine. He does a fine job, but like,
yeah. I mean, he's collecting a paycheck for 2 shows now, so it must be really nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, it doesn't really like, I'm in no way am I worried. I don't know. It doesn't bother me at all. I don't really give a shit about him. He seems to be like the hottest thing on the planet right now. I have no concept of really why.
So you haven't watched The Last of Us?
Yeah, I know everybody's talking about that, and like, and it's tear jerking. And I mean, I've certainly heard plenty of people review it. I know he's in it and he's probably doing a great job. I'm not saying he's a bad actor. I get it. I mean, Wonder Woman 1984 certainly leaves a very nasty taste in my mouth, and unless he wants to apologize for that, whatever. But, I guess
there's plenty to blame to go around on that movie. And
that's true. That's a fair point.
He's not carrying even the majority of it.
Right. Yeah. So, but it doesn't really bother me. I do think that Gina Carano's presence is missed. The character of Cara Dune not being there does kind of fuck with things.
That still stings.
Yep.
I'm still upset about that.
Yeah. No,
folks, in case you don't know this, I actually canceled my Disney Plus subscription because they did that.
Yeah. And Rob's not like some conservative, like Trumper kind of guy, because those seem to be a lot of the ones that support, Gina Carano because of her online presence and often how, I guess, some ways that she could carry herself. I don't necessarily agree with that, but that does seem to be a common thing. But let's be clear, I just want to be clear on that. It
has nothing to do with it.
Right.
I mean, I understand that the reason she was fired is deeply political.
Yeah,
I get that. I kind of wish the entertainment industry would find a way to separate a person's politics from their job.
Yeah, right. Right.
At least in the and the thing is like everything I've seen of Gina Carano. She seems like a wonderful, kind, empathetic, genuine human being that cares about other people.
100%.
And oddly enough, after she was fired from The Mandalorian, she went on to do, I guess, a movie with Ben Shapiro, which, who I have no love for.
Yeah, same.
He is one of these kind of like, ultra conservative douchebags that I'm not a huge fan of. But at the same time, apparently she did some sort of movie and that he produced, and everybody complained that the movie was too woke. Now, I haven't seen this movie yet, but it just seems kind of weird that a movie that, for somebody who's supposed to be, like basically a fascist,
right,
ends up producing this movie that's, too woke for their tastes.
Yeah. It's also weird. Yeah.
It is. It's bizarre. It is really bizarre.
Yeah. But yeah, that character not being a part of the action, and there's plenty of places where I could have seen her being a fit. That was missed.
Yeah, some people are even saying that they kind of alluded to her dying on that Tidarian shuttle.
Oh,
that was carrying Gideon.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't catch that personally. I didn't pick up on that.
No, I didn't either.
But that's some of the talk that's been going around online. So they're some people are thinking, they're implying that they've actually officially killed the character off now, which still, that's shitty. That's
bullshit.
That's kind of like, that's not only, you you've done the person dirty and then you go and piss on their grave.
Yeah, well, I don't. Yeah, I mean, this is something, and this is, I mean, it's related, but kind of not. Like, you don't have to kill people in their You don't have to kill off their characters, even if the person dies. Like, I still think that was a poor move to off Leia because Carrie Fisher died. Like, there's nothing wrong with keeping the character alive. I mean, you think of like Stargate, sure. Don Davis died, but General Hammond carried on. So anyway, yeah.
Well, I mean, and we've seen now Disney's kind of learned their lessons in terms they made a deal with James Earl Jones.
Oh, right.
Where they have, permissions to use his voice as Darth Vader in perpetuity.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, well, anyway, back to actors overall. I thought the acting in this was great.
Yeah,
overall.
It was spot on. Yeah.
Christopher Lloyd, I thought, was a ton of fun.
Oh, that was great seeing him.
Yeah.
I was so blown away. I'm like, here's another thing that's like a rare treat, getting to see Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a guy who, I mean, this guy's sci-fi royalty now, having been in Star Trek and Star Wars, and of course, Back to the Future is what it is. So yeah, that was great. Jack Black, another surprise. I thought he was fine. I thought Lizzo did fine. No real complaints. Carl Weathers, phenomenal. In fact, that's kind of the next point I want to get into is the directing. I thought everybody brought their A game on 99% or 90% of these episodes. We had, Bryce Dallas Howard was back directing. She did a fantastic job. Carl Weathers, I want to say he directed either one or two. He at least did the one. Awesome. It's so cool. To have, I was going to call it a cast of directors, but it's really great. And they all get it. They all clearly seem to be able to understand this, particularly even just the Mandalorian universe really well. Thoughts on that, Rob?
Yeah, no, it was great. And the episode he directed was number 4, The Foundling.
Right. That's it. Yeah.
And that was a strong episode too.
Right.
That was before even people started complaining that, season 3 was kind of weak. So
yeah.
And here again, I've to a certain point, I don't know what these people are talking about. So
right. Yeah. I mean, also on the acting side, of course, Katie Sackhoff coming in and just delivering the goods. And in many ways, I feel like stole the show, which I am totally fine with.
Right. Yeah. That was great. I enjoyed that because here again, I have, all the context. I know this character,
right,
really well at this point. And I understand other people don't.
Yeah, I mean, when she picks up the Darksaber and is saving Din Djarin, from that creature, inside the mines of Mandalore or whatever, that was total badassery. That was amazing. I loved that sequence.
I kind of wish people that are bothered by the focus of the show shifting away from Din Djarin, like instead of getting upset about it, maybe this should encourage you to go back into that back catalog and watch the Clone Wars and Rebels, because there's a lot of really good content there. Yes. I'm not going to say that there weren't filler episodes and some stinkers along the way, but for the most part, it really good shows. Yeah.
So I think we really got to get into the elephant in the room here. And that's episode 8. That is the season finale, not the series finale. As far as we know, real quick, this show is going to go 5 or 6 years, along with, and it'll run concurrently with some other shows that are part of the Filoni verse, like Ahsoka, maybe, I don't know if Bad Batch would get included in that, but some others. And this is eventually going to culminate in an Avengers Endgame style movie written, directed by David Filoni. And so we're getting to that point. That's important context, I think, to have in what we're about to say or what we're about to discuss. Did I miss any details on that, Rob?
No.
Okay.
And I mean, I hesitate to predict the future, but, I would kind of assume that The Mandalorian is probably going to end the same year that movie directed and written by Dave Filoni comes out.
Correct. Yeah. Agreed. I don't even know if we have a date on that. I want to say it was like 2028 or maybe it's 2025 even. Anyway,
I don't know. I mean, they've got a few years to make it. So.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So, okay. So let's talk about the season finale. Like we were just saying, we're hearing everybody saying, oh, season 3 is rough. It's uneven. There's this problem, that problem. We're like, what the hell are you talking about? It gets to the season finale. And at the end of that episode, I'm like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
That was a fucking mess, and yeah, I mean, the plane crashed. They did not stick the landing.
No. At
all. That was like, I almost want to say it's horrible. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot in it. In fact, what made me want to get to it was you have that tremendous battle sequence between the Imperial Mandalorians, right?
Yeah, the Super Commandos.
Yeah, the Super Commandos, and the Mandalorians led by Bo-Katan. And now to understand though, like that kind of fight scene, where they're all flying around in jetpacks in like a cavern of a type. I mean, they're rehashing, some of the last episodes of Star Wars Rebels, where Sabine took them on as well with her Mandalorians.
Right. Or even the Clone Wars with the the Mandalorian Civil War at the end.
Right. Yes. So it's okay. I can give Filoni a pass and say he's going for poetry, but it felt almost shot for shot in comparison to the Rebels same sequence, battle sequence between them. It felt almost like it, but whatever. It looked cool. It's in live action for the first time. Great.
Well, I mean, it felt very rote.
Yes.
There was nothing surprising in this episode.
Yeah.
And we were kind of led to believe that there was going to be a Luke Skywalker level shocker in the final episode. And if it was there, I totally missed it. It went over my head.
Yeah, I was 90. Go ahead.
I mean, I commented. It's funny we brought up Endgame earlier, but I mentioned it, Brian, before the show started. I felt like I was watching a Marvel movie.
Yeah, it felt so much like
and you know how we feel about those. And
yeah, no, we don't.
Yeah, they're very formulaic. And yes. I really like my biggest issue. Like, I thought Endgame was a tremendously boring movie.
I'm with you.
Just one action scene that didn't know when to stop.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt that way about this episode.
Yeah. And we know for a fact with superhero films that many times they will bring in what you could term as an action director, meaning a director that comes in who only films the action scenes. And that's why they all feel the goddamn same, because it's like, it is this rote, as you use the word, it is this rote process. And I mean, some of it was cool. Like I thought the idea of Moff Gideon having creating this super dark trooper kind of concept, and clones with Jedi powers and all or, with force powers and everything. Like I'm behind that. I thought his suit was actually really cool.
Yeah. Was it as cool as Phase 3 Dark Trooper though?
No.
Exactly. Yeah. No. I mean,
right. But a phase, I mean, it did fit the Dark Forces kind of beats though, in that the Phase 4 Dark Trooper was human occupable.
Right. Yeah. Because you had General Mock occupying, the Phase 4 trooper. That's what I meant was, was it as cool as the Phase 4,
no.
Armor?
Yeah.
No, he wasn't. I mean, I love that Dave Filoni pulls in stuff from, the old EU.
Yes.
That kind of, warms the cockles of my cold, dead heart.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do it, you got to improve upon it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't an improvement though. I dig it. I was like, yeah, no, that's really cool. I'd wear that shit. I did like the uniform, or the Dark Forces armor, that he was wearing.
I don't know why he put the spikes on his helmet though.
Yeah, I don't get that either. That seems to be some kind of a weird status thing, because the armorer, she has that as well.
Well, it makes sense for her because we pretty much confirmed in this season that she is a splinter faction from the Mandalorians that supported Darth Maul during the Civil War.
Right. The Death Watch or the Watch. And
Yeah.
and I mean, they even kind of reference that low key in that she's the one that tells you that Death Watch, like fractured,
Right.
and which
she was basically like, they're no more. They splintered into many factions. And
right.
like you get the impression she's saying that because she was there.
Yeah. Which, kudos, talk about somebody stealing the show. I thought the armor was fucking awesome in this season.
She is awesome every season. God damn, I love that character.
Yeah. So cool. And never seen her face, never need to, somehow just always so calm, in everything. But
yeah. And then when she gets into battle and she's going in with her hammer and tongs and it was even almost to a level of being kind of ridiculous in this last episode, but that was the one thing that kind of worked for me.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I really, really like that. And of course we got more of the Praetorian Guard taking on Grogu. While there was some go ahead.
That was disappointing.
Yes.
I don't know about you. I
agree. Overall, it was. I mean, there are some pretty cool moments. In fact, callback to episode 1 with the force fields that, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan had to run through to get to Maul.
Yeah. Specifically my issue was, where Grogu's like running around and force jumping on top of these light fixtures.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
He's just basically going in circles and not doing anything.
Yeah, no, it's super weak. I'm totally with you. Also, I don't, even with Grogu intervening with force powers, I don't entirely buy the Mandalorian, or Din Djarin besting these Praetorian guards. Something about that just felt a little off.
Yeah. I mean, something we skipped over. There was more than one redemption in this season. We had a bit of redemption for Clan Vizsla.
Yes,
at the end of episode 7,
which was I thought
Dynamite.
That was awesome. Just tossing guys around. That was so cool.
But his weapons firing so much, that it's overheating and glowing.
It's melting. Yeah. That was great. That was a great sequence to have. House Vizsla, finally redeem itself.
But the reason I bring that up is because, the Praetorians brought down, and I forget the guy's first name, but the Clan Vizsla guy. And we're supposed to believe that Din Djarin, who, I kind of jokingly said that his superpower was getting his ass kicked and just being able to keep getting up again. He's kind of like the Rocky of the Star Wars universe.
Yes.
But this idea of him being able to best the Praetorians, I agree with you. It was a bit much. Yeah.
And I mean, also the scene where they're walking through the force fields and Din Djarin's taking on the super commandos. It's a good sequence, but there's no context for him being the kind of badass where he's doing like Capoeira kicks or however you pronounce that. Like he's doing these insane kung fu moves during it, like where he's doing like little spin kicks and lowering down and everything. He was a little too good, and I was like,
right.
Like if he did that before at some point in season 1 or season 2, I would have bought it. But yeah, it does feel like, we talked about how great a lot of the direction was in the season. It does feel like an action director was brought in for this episode, and they just did whatever the fuck and didn't know anything about the characters.
Yeah.
It was very strange. Bo-Katan, I mean, she was great taking on Gideon. That sequence worked. Man, I don't know.
It's funny. I was just thinking a little while ago too, when you brought up, Grogu using his force powers.
Yeah.
Do you remember the end of episode 7? We both kind of looked at each other and were like, because like there's a scene where Moff Gideon shows up and takes his helmet off, and he's got Din Djarin captive, and Grogu's in his IG 12 or whatever suit
11.
it is.
Yeah,
IG 11 suit that he's wearing, and he's on the other side of this door, and we both go like, dude, Grogu, choke the motherfucker out through the door with your force powers.
Yeah, that didn't make sense. In fact, there was almost no narrative point to Din Djarin getting captured at the end of episode 7.
Yeah, because he gets out of that situation
in no
really
time.
Quickly. Yeah, and Grogu basically just comes out of nowhere.
Right.
Like where was the scene where he basically, snuck by that huge battle between, Vizsla and the Super Commandos, and then the Praetorians.
Right, in a very slow moving IG-11.
Yeah. Like I must have missed that scene.
Episode 8 feels so off the wall. Like it almost felt like it wasn't even in the same show. Like there was something. Go ahead.
There's a hint of this too, and it really kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Is that the concept, that the art that they show at the end of every show, the concept art that they showed for this season, I feel like it was better than the show that we got.
Wow. Yeah. Is there a specific,
they like there's one really great shot where you're seeing inside the cockpit of a TIE Interceptor, and the Super Commando is piloting it. I feel like there was a big space battle that they kept on building up to, and then never happened because basically the TIE Interceptors and the Mandalorians pass each other in the clouds.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The gauntlet ships just go right by.
We didn't get to see the Mandalorian Fang fighters engage in any kind of action whatsoever.
Yeah.
That was hugely disappointing.
I wonder if they ran out of budget or something. Something is really off about this last episode. And because like all the action, everything ends like 2/3 into the episode, and then it turns into a whole other thing, which, not that I mind having a good epilogue or a good aftermath, and like see, okay, well, what happens after they destroy the Death Star or after the throne room, right? Like what occurs. And we do get, we get to see, okay, the forge, the great forge on Mandalore gets relit.
That was great. Yeah.
That was nice. Mandalore's back. I mean, I don't mind this sort of thing.
Would have been happy if it ended there, to be honest with you.
Right. And instead, and this is where other problems come in, and here's where I'm going to bring back the conversation around Bo-Katan. But I want to make sure your thoughts get out there, Rob. Because then we get Din Djarin going to the New Republic, going to talk to the kind of the main New Republic X-Wing pilot character that we've met throughout it. And asking him, hey, I need a job, but I've got a little kid with me, which, by the way, I'm sick. This was another dumb thing throughout this season. Grogu's 50 something, like at least 52. He is not a little kid. And I mean, I guess we could argue that Yoda's species or something, maybe they have like a somewhat slower development, but I kind of have a hard time believing that.
Yeah, me too. The idea that he can't talk and just still continues to make baby noises, it's getting a little old. Yeah,
because again, he's old.
I mean, there was a point even in there in that, the scene where after the Forge, where they're basically, baptizing the new Mandalorians.
Right.
And Grogu's there, and, Din Djarin wants to make him an apprentice, and he's like, well, he can't speak the creed yet. So, and they go through this whole thing. Oh, well, can his parents give him permission to do it? He says, yes, but, where are they? They're probably dead.
Right.
And so, you have Din Djarin adopted. But I mean, like they could have done that whole scene, yes. And like if they had made that scene where Grogu says his first word,
it would have been awesome.
That would have been epic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was expecting him to.
And that would have been the perfect way to end the episode, where I didn't feel like they completely crashed and burned. It still wouldn't have been good, but it certainly would have been better than what they continued on with.
Yeah. So then they just end up, they're on Carl Weathers' planet. And they end up,
Navarro.
He has a plot of Navarro, right? They end up, Griff Karga gives them a deed to land, right? And says, it's all yours, whatever. And, they bring back IG-11, which that was fine. I have no problem with that. And IG-11 being the sheriff in town.
But I mean, the whole land gifting thing, that was kind of redundant, because like he already gave the Mandalorians a bunch of land on Navarro,
Right.
and they're obviously not going to use it now because they're on Mandalore.
Yeah, right, which is something weird about that. We'll get into that.
Okay.
So, but then you get this weird end scene, which is nice in a way. It just felt really out of place. It felt really tacked on. It felt hokey. And you have Grogu like holding up the frog on the pond, and then it like the circle closes in on him like it's Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Right. Yeah. And that it's funny you say that, because I felt like, and in many ways throughout this whole, episode, I felt like I was watching a Saturday morning cartoon. Not that I have anything against Saturday morning cartoons. It's sad that they're not around anymore.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's The Mandalorian is from what I expect of it, a level higher than a Saturday morning cartoon. Yeah.
Well, and you're hitting at great flow, because this is where I want to start to go with this. One thing being, I have a real problem with him working for the New Republic, because the first introduction we get of the Mandalorian, this guy is lobbing heads off with like the automatic closing doors, in a cantina. Like this guy is not a nice guy. He is seemingly a very amoral character. That's part of what makes him so endearing with Grogu, is that, okay, I don't give a shit about anybody other than other Mandalorians. But I do have some care about this character. I mean, there's multiple times over where in season 1, they're saying, hey, Mando, you don't care about this. You don't care about people like that. Like they're explaining, what he's about, because they know him, because they've hired him. And I thought it eliminated a lot of Din Djarin's badassery.
Yep.
And
he's gone soft.
Yeah, he's gone really soft. And go ahead.
And the funny thing is I'm hearing people online, different various Star Wars commentators, not going to name names, who are basically at this point expecting that season 4 of the show is going to be a return to form to what things were like in season 1. I'm like, oh, did you just watch the same episode that I did? That's not what I got.
No, we've got a little kid here. We've got to be clean on the up and up. I mean, what made The Mandalorian so exciting, I think, for many in season 1, myself included, was, this is grown up, badass Star Wars. Like this isn't kiddie stuff. Even though you do have Grogu at the same time. Yeah. But I do want to get into that. But I thought that him working for the New Republic I think that's just nonsense, and clearly part of plans of other storylines that they are not going forward with, like Rangers of the New Republic.
There's one small thing I have hope for, and they did they might have laid a seed for it earlier in the season. Is I would not at all mind seeing a Din Djarin Zeberilios buddy cop movie or show.
Yeah. Okay.
I think those two could play off each other very well.
Okay. I'm with you on that. That could be all right. But that's one thing. But so here's where I'm going to get. Here's my theory. I'm going to lay it out. Okay. I think at some point now there are commentators who have theories that Favreau has effectively walked away from The Mandalorian, and he walked away early in season 3. Because of Kathleen Kennedy's interference or whatever. Okay.
Right.
I didn't believe that, because episodes 1 through 7 were phenomenal. I'm like, no, this is great. He's got to be there. This is so good. Him and Filoni have to be, right on set. But then episode 8 happened, and that completely changed my mind. So another rounding theory is that, and part of, this meddling apparently that Favreau's had a problem with from the higher brass, is that Grogu was not supposed to come back in season 3. Season 2 would have effectively, they didn't even know if they were going to get a season 3. And season 2 was really the wrap up. Like the end was Luke Skywalker coming back, which what a great note to end on. It's a good theory. Okay. And then Book of Boba Fett happens. And in fact, that gets interfered with, because we have to explain before season 3 goes live with 8 episodes. Why is Grogu back with Din Djarin? And so they commandeer Book of Boba Fett to bring this in, partly because Bob Iger or someone involved, Kathleen Kennedy, whoever, doesn't think that the Mandalorian can work without cutesy, Grogu, right?
Mhm.
In fact, honestly, that does seem to be a bit of a mandate because they doubled down on that cutesiness by bringing in the Babu freaks. And it worked, by the way. I'm not necessarily complaining. It's one of the best.
Yeah, I'm not gonna complain when they take, good elements from a bad product and kind of play them up. Yeah, do that. That's fine.
Yeah. So Grogu wasn't supposed to be a part of season 3. It might not even meant to be a season 3. Okay. But if there was going to be a season 3, so here, and this is a theory that I laid out on old episodes of TIE Fighter Renegades when season 2 picked up. Okay. And this is where Bo-Katan kind of comes in. I still think they were setting up Din Djarin to become the leader of the Mandalorians for a couple reasons, or more than a couple, at least 3. One is Din Djarin is really just a stand-in for Boba Fett, for the abstract character of Boba Fett.
Mhm.
In fact, we know that almost for a fact. Like Favreau's almost explicitly said that. Okay. It's like, Din Djarin is the Boba Fett of the 90s, before George Lucas changed the storyline in the prequel trilogy. Okay. And I like that. Like, I'm down with that. Okay. That's cool. Now, as we know in the expanded universe, Boba Fett eventually does become the leader of Mandalore. When you get more towards the Swarm books, which is post New Jedi Order.
Yep.
Anyway,
becomes a father too, as I recall.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay. So as far as we're making the old EU Boba Fett in the character of Din Djarin. That seemed to have been the modus operandi for Favreau. And fine, again, I dig it. Okay, I get it. And like I said, in season 2, the hints that they were making, you did have, and this really didn't get resolved. We just kind of jumped ahead at the season 2 finale. You have real tension between Bo-Katan and Din Djarin because Din Djarin has the Darksaber.
Yeah, we were expecting some shit to go down between these two.
Right. And even in the Book of Boba Fett, when Din Djarin comes back, he's getting trained how to use the Darksaber. There is no hint whatsoever that he's going to hand that fucker over. Quite the opposite. In fact, if anything, it looked like the battle wasn't going to be between him and Bo-Katan. It could have even been between him and Vizsla. Because Vizsla says he should hold it or whatever,
Right.
So anyway, also his armor becomes all chrome in season 2. Now, my suggestion with that was there is a precedent in Star Wars where all chrome represents royalty, right? We know this from Naboo ships. He's even fucking flying an N1 starfighter that's all chrome. I mean, he's literally flying a ship of Naboo royalty. And I think they were setting him up to become the leader of Mandalore. Somebody comes in, though, and says, oh, no, we can't have that. We need him and Grogu. This is the selling point. And then they do bring Bo-Katan in, but they make her into the hero of the story.
Right.
And they give her the Darksaber. Because I think that as fine and dandy as all those episodes were, and I have no problem with Bo-Katan being the leader of Mandalore, it makes sense. But I do think that was a change in the story. I don't think that was the original plan. I think that him coming up with this logical nonsense of why he can give her the Darksaber was ex post facto bullshit. It doesn't, none of that makes any sense. It really feels like there was a lot of meddling going on. So I don't have a problem with Bo-Katan. I don't have a problem with female characters. Bring them all on. Like, I have no problem with that. I think Bo-Katan's a great character. I think Katie Sackhoff can act her ass off. She's, great. Okay. My problem is I think there was a very different plan for season 3 at one point. Grogu was not a part of it, and Bo-Katan was not going to play the role that she's playing now. If anything, she probably would have been offed. And so I can see that now. And really, I wouldn't have seen those seams, as it were, those cracks in the foundation, if it weren't for just how fucking horrible episode 8 was. Rob, do you have any thoughts on that whole thing that I just laid out?
I did not see that until you brought it up, but I can see how, I can follow your line of logic in this.
Mm-hmm.
I have not been, I'm not a Kathleen Kennedy hater. That doesn't mean I'm letting her off the hook either. Right. There could have definitely been some meddling. In fact, But here again, all the talk we've had about that has come from the usual suspects who have always pretty much turned out to be wrong, dead wrong. Saying things like, oh, Kathleen Kennedy's getting fired this year. Her contract's up. She's gone. All this kind of shit never materializes.
Right.
So I that's the only thing where it kind of like gives me a little pause. I will say though, and I've mentioned this many times before, is like fucking Bob Iger is the fucking Emperor Palpatine of Disney.
Yeah,
he
not
really
in a good
is.
way.
Like, yeah, exactly, in all the worst ways. And I got to say that the timing seems spot on. Where at the point that episode 8 would have been coming into production, matches up with the timeline of when Bob Iger came back to take over.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the strongest evidence on it is that ending is so tacked on. Like it's so clearly not written well. It's so forced, no pun intended. It just doesn't work. It spoils the whole thing. Oh man,
like I said, the concept art they show at the end of the episode implies a better episode than what we got.
Yeah. I think we got robbed. I mean, again, take the elements as they are, and I can, again, I don't like Din Djarin working for the New Republic, but whatever, I could deal with it. But the execution was horrible. Yeah. I mean, it is cute to see Grogu playing, by a pond with a frog. I don't have a problem with that, but the way that it was executed was fucking horrible.
Yeah.
And it just does not make sense. It
doesn't make me excited. That the worst sin of all is it does not make me the least bit excited for season 4.
No, right. Yeah. I'm with you. Actually, that's a great point to bring up. I have no excitement.
The ends of season 1 and 2 both had us wanting more, give me more. Yeah. This did not leave me in that state of mind.
No.
I am the least excited I have ever been for this show.
Yeah. So point 1, like, I think your statement that Andor is the best Star Wars show out there right now, I think is true. Point 2, I also get I just want to add this in. I get the sense, I think that the reclaiming of Mandalore was something that they rushed in. It was probably supposed to happen, but I think they rushed this in because another story beat that makes no sense. Why did Griff Karga give them land for one fucking episode?
Yeah.
Like what? No, like there's a whole story to have there,
Yeah, people were writing articles like, is Navarro the new Mandalore? Well,
right.
Obviously not.
No, I mean, but that's insane. Like they literally had it for one episode. What the fuck? No, yeah. So much of this just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and the battle scene between the pirates and the Mandalorians was a better battle scene than the final episode.
Yes. Yeah, no, totally. And I love that little Eclipse class call.
Yeah.
In the design. There's a lot of nice little touches in this. The sad part is, that last episode really did hurt it because like Ellen loved it, we were loving it. Everything was really, really solid until they hit that. But there's a lot of nice calls. Like when they go on the episode with Jack Black and Christopher Lloyd and everything, like there's these dome cities with tubes, with a tube tram that you get around to them with. They were totally lifting from Logan's Run. Like that was Logan's Run all the freaking way, even it being like a paradise planet.
Well, not only that, I can imagine the Mandalorians showing up to this place and going, yeah, this feels familiar. This is nice.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, yeah, there's all, and even I felt like even what the initiation that they were doing in the waters of the mines of Mandalore felt very Dune, Yeah. Everything about the Mandalorians felt super Fremen. And it worked. Like I'm not complaining about that. I thought that was a good thing. even when they're training them, and the idea that even the kids are vicious, right? Like that so fits in with the description of Fremen children and the Fremen overall. They're even living on a desert planet, and they have to move when you find where they are. I mean, they're really lifting so much. I mean, even season 2 did that with the Krayt Dragon was essentially a giant sandworm. And that's fine. Like, I don't mind. That's what Star Wars does. It remixes, it brings in the best. I'm okay with that. And I just want to recognize that tradition continued, and that's a good thing. So there's so much to love here, but fucking did that ending mess things up? And somebody, again, in my opinion, somebody really got in there and screwed over the plan that Filoni and Favreau, I think, had in place, because things changed, and it not only hurt season 3 of The Mandalorian, it hurt the Book of Boba Fett, in my opinion. And well, I guess let's switch a little gears and say, hopefully this doesn't hurt Ahsoka. I mean, what do you got?
I will say that I think the only thing that remained from what was originally planned, and I think you said this earlier, was that they were going to retake Mandalore.
Yes.
I think that's the only element that really kind of was preserved in this, whole thing. Right.
Even though we still don't have great details on the Great Purge. I mean, we know more, but I still think that was supposed to happen a lot slower. All of that was supposed to be explored a lot more, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
So
that's another thing too, is Moff Gideon, he was basically supposed to be the architect of the Great Purge.
Right.
And like here again, there's something with like we didn't really get a whole lot of context for him. Like he acts and seems more menacing. He seems like he should seem more menacing than what he really kind of appears to be in the show. I kind of buy it, but at the same time, it's kind of like I don't have the same sort of context like I do with Bo-Katan or some other these characters that they've brought over from the past. Right.
Well, it's probably I think it could easily be another area where they rushed it. Like there was supposed to probably be a lot more story. And, in fact, there's a great meme out there right now. Of course, part of why you buy Moff Gideon as a badass is because Giancarlo Esposito is a tremendous actor. I mean, like world-class actor. But now there's like memes out there where they're calling him Giancarlo Exposition instead of Esposito. and I mean, the meme makes sense. The guy, like, half his dialogue is he's having to explain all the big grand plan. And when you have to do that, it's because you cut out 20 million scenes.
Yep,
you know what I mean?
It's the old saying, show, don't tell. And they just told us how badass he is instead of showing us.
Yeah, exactly. He did too much telling, too much exposition. And that is another thing where it feels like, ooh, you guys got Rise of Skywalker. You got fucked up, or you got fucked over here. Oh man, I can't believe I'm saying this, because again, it was so good. It was so great.
Right. It was like all the things we're talking about were nitpicks up until the last episode.
Yeah.
And then the flaws, like it's just kind of like the hairline fracture that turns into, a gaping chasm.
Yes. Yeah. Not good. And I'm still like, admittedly, I want to watch the last episode again at some point, just because the whole time I'm watching it, I am waiting for that Luke Skywalker moment that I am 99% certain Jon Favreau said that there was going to be another moment like that. Yeah. And it didn't happen. Unless the mythosaur, nobody fucking knows what it, we're the only people in the world that know what a mythosaur is.
Right. And we got teased twice with that, and no payout on it.
Yeah, no real payoff. In fact, even that scene where Grogu seems to like be connecting with the mythosaur during his quote unquote baptism makes like, I don't understand what the fuck was going on there at all. And that's a weird scene to do. Like, it's fine if I don't have to understand it, but you got to do a little bit better than that.
I mean, like in my mind's eye of how great I was expecting the last episode to be, is that, Bo-Katan and Moff Gideon are going to be, duking it out down into, the depths of Mandalore, and Bo-Katan's going to, pull out the Mythosaur card, and the Mythosaur is going to eat Moff Gideon.
Yes. That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either that. I love that idea. Actually, it's way better than mine, because I was like, Sabine Wren's going to show up, like they've revealed her in the Ahsoka trailer. So Sabine will show up and kick some ass.
I think if they were going to do that, they should have done it earlier in the season.
No, I agree. I agree. But I just, when we were getting to that point, I'm like, what can they do? Who can they bring in? Yeah. That was the thing that I.
Yeah,
that
I was, and it felt like they were building up to that because like. The armorer, when Bo-Katan tells the armor, no, I really saw the mythosaur, she she takes her word at it, and you feel like there's a degree of like almost prophecy going on here. And here again, it's all very Fremen.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I was expecting Bo-Katan to mount that that dragon and fucking take it to town on the Imperials.
Right. Yeah. Oh man. All right. Well, so I think the best thing we can say about The Mandalorian is not that excited for season 4.
No, yeah.
That's the review in a nutshell. I do too.
Yeah, I hate saying that. It's terrible.
Yeah. But let me tell you what I am excited for, Rob. We got the trailer for Star Wars Ahsoka coming out in August at Star Wars Celebration. And I mean, I was glad that I bought the pens earlier in the day.
I was going to say that was fire. Yeah, that was
I shit
fire.
myself.
I didn't just shit myself, but like my pants caught fire because it was so hot. And it was a spicy ass burrito.
That was amazing. I mean, I'm watching this. What the fuck? Like, I don't know how you can do that. How to trailer like that was. I mean, you had it all. You had Thrawn. I mean, Ahsoka's kicking ass everywhere. Sabine Wren shows up. Fucking Chopper is in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe they revealed all that, and we're getting Hera. Dark Jedi. I mean, you got red lightsabers all over the fucking place. It's just like, oh, holy shit, this is a dream.
Well, did you notice that they weren't totally red? They're more
right.
orange.
They're kind of orange. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. And Dave Filoni, like somebody, asked him about that. He says, yeah, that was intentional. So that's important.
Fuck. Ahsoka even said the words "heir to the Empire." I was like,
yes,
man.
Yes.
I'm like, is that guy? Is that Jorah Saboth?
You're right. Yes.
Holy shit, was I jazzed? I mean, we're already getting set up that people are working on clones and everything.
Yeah.
Oh. I mean, I was just blown away.
Yeah.
And the action was so good. I mean, like the action you're watching, you're going, wow. Like Ahsoka's diving out of bridges of starships and shit. Nuts.
Yeah, and exploring what kind of looked to me like, a Sith temple.
Yeah. Oh, just fucking insane. I mean, so Andor, as long as they can stick the landing, I think they've got a winner. I mean, just on cool factor, and to finally have Thrawn in live action. I mean, it's going to be a pretty momentous occasion for sure. Any other thoughts on that trailer, Rob?
No, I mean, really, anything I could say would only diminish it just because it was that good.
Yeah. I'll try to remember to link to it in the show notes, but folks, it ain't hard to find.
Yeah,
it was amazing. All right, let's wrap up the show, but I want to end it off. We kind of got the good, we got the bad, and I think we need to end with some more bad or something in the middle. I don't know. We need something a little warm. Maybe go to another season 3, another series, another show that celebrated a season 3 recently. Rob, why don't you tell me about season 3 of Star Trek Picard?
Oh boy. Okay, so
hold on. I'm going to mute the mic because I'm going to scream expletives while you do. No, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I told you. I mean, like, I empathize with you. Like, believe me, folks. I initially did not even want to watch this season of Picard because the last 2 were just, in my opinion, on such a shit show on the level that, like, it left me a worse taste in my mouth than even Discovery.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Discovery is a blemish on the brand.
Right.
Okay. Then I saw the Enterprise D in all her glory.
In season 3 of Picard.
Yeah, inside and out. Like I'm seeing clips online. I wasn't seeking this out. It's just other people sharing it. I saw it. You got to understand, this is my ship. this is home. It really is. I don't like I feel like I grew up on that ship.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, like my initial feelings about Picard were like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So it was definitely when I put myself through watching season 2, I was like, yeah, that's on me. I decided to eat that shit sandwich and I ate it whole and I'm not going to do it again. But I saw my ship and I had to take one last trip. And I got to say, I'm not going to say that the season was so good that it undoes all the damage of New Trek, but it takes a giant leap forward in that direction.
I don't fucking believe it.
They finally pay, the characters and the writing with the proper respect that it deserves. And I'm sure there will probably be some people who are even more cynical than Brian and I who will say that, this season of Picard was terrible because it was all fan service. And sure, yeah, there might be some fan service on there, but you know what? Sometimes fan service tastes really fucking good after you've eaten 2 years of shit sandwiches.
All right. So to be fair, people who've been very harsh on New Trek, I have, other commentators, I have heard them say that season 3 was amazing. Like that it was so well done, to the point of tears. Like that some people were crying.
I can think of 3 moments where I literally cried.
Right. Now I hear this and all I can respond is with, as we mentioned at the top of the show, is just motherfucker, because I don't want to do it. I don't want to watch it. I don't want this in my life, but it's so hard, right? Because okay, we can talk sweaty about Star Wars and whatever, but look, at the end of the day, Star Trek at least was my life. Like, I mean, it inspired everything.
I get it. Like I said, that life, I feel like I grew up on that shit, man. I really do. These characters are family.
Yeah. I mean,
and I got them back for just a brief moment of one season, Yeah. It was nice.
I've heard
really nice.
All right. Well, I mean, and spoiler alerts. So like for me and Rob and I, we've done whole episodes of TIE Fighter Renegades talking about, where Star Trek stands on our various totem poles. Okay. Or where different aspects of Star Trek, original series, next gen, and so on. We've done these full reviews. Okay. I mean, for me, like home is more the original series for me. Okay. Even though same as you, Rob, like I grew up, I mean, I was 6 and I watched Encounter at Farpoint. I watched every Star Wars or every Star Trek premiere as it came out. I was growing up with it and everything. And I heard in the show, like I have a lot of ideas of I know what has more or less happened in this season of Picard, because I've listened to some of these commentators. And like when I heard that Section 31 has the body of James T. Kirk, I was like, oh, don't do it. Like you've already fucked up Picard. Don't do this to Kirk. Even though at the same time, I'm like, well, if they're going to do it, at least have Chris Pine play the older Kirk. Like I'm fine with that. I thought Chris Pine was a fine Kirk. But anyway.
And I hear that, but just to give them a little bit, it was such a throwaway moment.
Yeah.
It was a blink and you'll miss it moment, literally.
Yeah. I'm just so terrified that they're going to do that. Like, I hear you. But if they, and I got to tell you, like there's another thing that's really personal about this to me. Like I love the character Data. Yeah.
It made me so angry the way the way they killed him off twice, both in Nemesis and the first season of Picard. They really
totally fucked up both.
That hurt, but especially the first season of Picard, that hurt me more than anything else, than anything that's been done to Star Trek in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah,
that was the worst.
Yeah,
and I'm even getting teary-eyed about it right now.
Hell yeah.
The way brought him back.
And see, now I've got to watch it. Now I've got to watch it. God damn it.
Yeah.
Now I have to watch it.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I'll admit, I was like,
this is because I thought I was at a point with Star Trek where I thought I was never going to get closure with this character that meant so much to me.
Right.
And they did it.
Yeah. Let's see, now I have to see it. Man, yeah. I respect that. And folks, look, I'm a guy, if you ever watch Star Trek the Motion Picture with me, I'll cry every time we watch that movie. So that's what Star Trek means. Okay, folks, like you got to understand, like it's such a core thing. That's why we're so passionate about it. Yeah, we won't give it away because actually I don't know the answer to this, and I want to see it happen. That's one of the things, like Picard season 1 is what made me swear off New Trek, because it was that bad. And a big part of it for me was also exactly how they treated the character of Data. I was like, this is ridiculous. In fact, part of the big reason you said, Mr. Michael Chabon, that you said you were going to do season 1 of Picard was you wanted to give Data a proper ending, and they completely botched that up.
Yeah.
Like I could respect that. And I'm like, okay, I'm on board. Yeah. Give him the proper ending. You fucked it up again. You did it twice to that character. That's crazy. And so for season 3 to remedy that, good. That's a memory I think I want in my mind.
And they remedied something else. Another thing that made me really upset about seasons 1 and 2 of Picard was that it seemed like the state of not only Starfleet, but the entire galaxy was in such a shit poor condition.
Yes.
Like basically they had undone all of the sort of, ethical progress they had made throughout all of, Star Trek, Next Generation, in Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, and all that was gone.
Right.
And it was basically, a reflection of the world we're living in today. It was a dystopia. And I got a real problem with Star Trek being a dystopia.
No, that's what makes Star Trek stand out, is it's utopia. Yeah.
And in season 3 of Picard, I won't say they undid it, but they explained it in a way that made sense to me now, where before it made no sense. And it just seemed ridiculous, and it made me angry just to even think about it.
Yeah. All right. Rob's convinced me to watch it. I still haven't watched season 2. Do I have to watch season 2 to watch season 3?
No, don't. I implore you, don't. Don't. There's nothing there. There's a little bit at the end that you won't have the context for, and I can explain it to you. But beyond that, no. I don't think season 2 is required watching for anybody.
Okay. All right. That's good. So we can just go from Nemesis to season 3 of Picard.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Honestly, I would have been just happy with Xing out Nemesis and going from, First Contact to Picard. And that would have made all the sense in the world for this show too.
Interesting. Okay. Well, there you have it, folks. So, one show falls from grace, another gets redeemed.
Rises from the ashes.
Yeah. Who knew? All right. I will do it. I will do it. I'm not going to rush, but I'm going to do it, just because if something gets my brother Rob, this worked up, I've got to be a part of that. I got to know. So, all right, there we are. Anyway, so Rob, what's your temperature gauge on Star Trek, and then what's your temperature gauge on Star Trek?
Oh my God, it's like reverse polarity. Holy shit, I would have never imagined this a year ago.
Me neither.
The magnetic poles of the sci-fi universe just flipped.
Yeah. Wait a minute, what's Antarctica? Why is that the North Pole now? This doesn't make any sense. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's where we're at. So Star Trek feeling.
But I mean, this is not to say I'm not looking forward to, all things Star Wars. Like we said, Andor and Ahsoka are still, spicy hot burritos that I'm going to gobble down.
Yeah. So I can't really speak to Star Trek, though. I'll bring up a very quick funny comment. So, or not funny, ironic, I guess, or coincidental, maybe. But I don't really believe in those. So, I am, as far as Star Trek, just to comment on that, I'm not hot on TV Star Trek, but boy, I'll tell you, the comic books IDW is doing right now with Star Trek Defiant and the Star Trek mainline title with bringing Cisco back. These are white hot comics. Like this is some of the best Star Trek you'll ever read in your life. So IDW is doing, again, none of it is related to Picard or Discovery or Lower Decks or any of that bullshit. IDW is clearly being intentional in making sure that this is something that can easily fit within the original canon of Star Trek, which I applaud. And that's why I'm still reading it. That's really giving me my Star Trek fix, and that's great. And I think they're doing amazing things going forward. So I'll put that there. Ironically, also, Star Wars, yeah, feeling a little lukewarm, but Ahsoka, no pun intended there, but Ahsoka looks amazing. And that said, what Star Wars is doing in the comic books has been, I've really enjoyed. Some of it's been twisted, but I've enjoyed the twistedness of it, including in the Darth Vader title and others. So I'm just putting that out there, that I'm actually kind of bullish on both on both franchises, but mostly because of what's happening in the comic books. That's where I think the real action is. And I kind of almost feel good that Star Wars has kind of toned it down on a lot of the novels, minus the High Republic. But the High Republic is a whole other conversation that I'll get into in another episode. So yeah, I hear you, Rob. I agree with like the pole shift. I'm going to check out Picard season 3 and see what's going on with there. But I got to say, from the comic book standpoint, both of these franchises are just doing phenomenal right now. But definitely looking forward to Ahsoka. Anything else you want to get out there, Rob?
No, I said everything I had to say. Like,
right on.
If I like here again, if I start talking more about Picard, I'm going to start bawling. So let's pass on that.
That's all right. I love it. I love the passion. So, all right. That is it for this episode of TIE Fighter Renegades. We got a lot more to get into. We got to review Bad Batch season 2 yet. We are going to do an episode where we deep dive on all the news that came out during Star Wars Celebration. Of course, by the time we get to that episode, all of those movies could fucking disappear. So, at the rate that Kathleen Kennedy, brings out the axe.
Yeah.
So it might be worthless to talk about it anyway, but certainly some interesting nuggets to get into there, and place to hear it talked about with the amount of knowledge, dare I say, encyclopedic knowledge, and the amount of passion that it only happens here on TIE Fighter Renegades. So we will see all of you on the other side.